Awesome. So we're here today to talk about agile change management and how this is a new paradigm for successfully navigating change. Um, what exactly do we mean when we say agile change management? I think a lot of people are kind of throwing this term around, but I want to kind of codify it for us here in the community that when we say agile change management, we mean something very specific, which would be the application of the Agile Manifesto, the Agile values, the Agile principles to change management, and not just pretending we're talking about change management that just pivots all over the place like crazy, because that's kind of like how I see the term being used, or rather abused, I think, lately, Jeff. And I think we really want to steer people to understanding that when you say this word agile, it actually does mean something specific. You don't get to make up the definition. It was done by these people over in Snowbird many, many years ago. And when we say that, we're actually applying their definition of that word to what it is we're doing. Now, some of you might be wondering, hey, who's this crazy guy that Jeff brought in to talk about this? So for those of you who don't know me, I am associated with Dr. Sutherland. He is, of course, one of the co-creators of Scrum. He wrote the Scrum Guide with Ken Schwaber way back in the day. I am a co-author and contributing editor of the Scrum at Scale Guide. We are going to touch on Scrum at Scale today because that's kind of like the thing that I know best on how to work with change management. So I'm bringing that to you. If that's not something you're familiar with, totally okay. It's going to be great. You'll get a little mini introduction to some of its ideas today. And of course, many of us know us from the crazy books that have been out there. And just if you don't know, Dr. Sutherland is writing a brand new one called First Principles in Scrum. He's writing it and he's publishing it a chapter at a time on LeanPub. So you buy it once and then it just keeps updating every single week. And I think he plans on writing a chapter till he dies. I swear, it's crazy. It's every week. He's like, Avi, read this thing. Should we put this out? And I'm like, I don't know. And then he just publishes it because that's kind of the way he is. So it's a very, very interesting piece to see how first principles tie into Scrum. But without further ado, just so you know a little bit more about me, I am a principal agile transformation consultant at Scrum Inc. I'm also the I don't know what you want to call it, chief educator there. I invented most of our curriculum because, as you can see on my bio slide, for under the line for 14 years, I was a public school teacher. And so I do a lot of education, a lot of curriculum and content creation. That's really what my forte was. I've been Dr. Sutherland's protege for over 7 years. And after working alongside him for about 9 months in the classroom, he was like, okay, you understand this in theory, but you have to go out there and do it. So I actually started in the classroom, but then he said, forget it, go out in the real world. And so he started sending me to all these different engagements with these huge, multi-billion-dollar and multinational companies. Most of you know ABI is Anheuser-Busch or Budweiser. That's my biggest client. KDDI, second largest telecom in Japan. Rio Tinto, third largest mining company in the world. I'm sure many of you recognize some of the other logos you see here. These are the ones, of course, we're allowed to use. I have hundreds of clients that don't let me say who they are because, I mean, to be honest, if you were associated with me, you might not want to know. You might not want nobody to know that either. Okay, so some people they say we can't say a logo, but other people, fortunately, like, oh, this guy, he did a good job. Let's let him use the logo. Okay, so this is the people I've worked with. Basically, if you can name it, I've scrummed it. My main thing is Scrum Beyond IT. And I spend most of my time working with leadership, helping them go from what I like to say, dumb to Scrum, because that's really what it is that a lot of them just don't get it. And they keep thinking it's for everybody else, not for them. And I'm like, no. Lean, Scrum, Agile, it's for you. If you want other people to do this, you have to do it. And then, of course, like, okay, but how do we change what we're doing? And I'm like, that's what I'm here to help you with. And that's what I want to talk about today, which is change management. But I don't want to make this a speech because I'm a Socratic instructor. I believe in educating through questions. So let's do it this way. Let's get out there in the chat, everybody. When someone says to you, what's change management? How do you answer that? What do you answer to this executive? Well, how's the change management going to work? What do you get in the chat? Get your ideas in there. Let's hear from everybody, okay? This is the part where you click the button that says chat and you start typing. That's how this works. All right, everybody. Andre, get in there. Sarucci, I want to see an answer from you. Okay. There we go. We got stuff coming in. Facilitating different ways of working or just transformation. Rose from Florida says ability to pivot and work on different features. Okay, that sounds good. Anybody else? Start and end. I like that, Andre. That's a good one. That's something a lot of people don't think about. They don't think about the end, Andre. They all think about starting, but they forget about how to wrap it up. How you got to tie a nice little bow on it, right? There's not a lot of people that think all the way through. Oh, Nicola wrote gaining understanding and buy-in. Saruchi's got dealing with the transition or transformation. Saruchi, that's good stuff. I like what you wrote there, Saruchi. Okay, let's talk about what this really is. Okay, from an academic perspective, because I got one of these things. I went to a place that you may have heard of it called Cornell to learn about change management. Very nice place. Charge a lot of money, but they actually know a couple of things too. Now, the essence of change management was actually put down in 1947 by this dude, Kurt Lewin. And he created a visual metaphor that has been used essentially since that day until now for what change management really is. It is ubiquitous in all of academia. And the idea behind it is that when you come into an organization, it's like an ice. It's like ice. It's like a frozen block. It's solid. It's static. This is how we do things. And then you, as a change management agent, an agent of change, the amazing agilist that I know you are, your job is to melt that ice and make a liquid state where you're now going to rearrange things. And you're going to say, this is what we're going to do different here. And that's what we're going to do different there. And then you got to refreeze it. Now, hopefully, it's something beautiful, right? Like this ice sculpture. So as Andre was saying, it's about start to end. So the idea here is you start in a static state and then you unfreeze. And now you go into the water state and now you have to refreeze. But here is how agile change management is different, okay? And I don't know how many of you remember your high school chemistry or if you're a chemical engineer out there, but you might remember back in the day, you learned about something called a dynamic equilibrium. See, the whole deal is this when it comes, I'm going to first principles. Here we go, Jeff, right here. The whole deal is this. It's not that water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. For those in America, that's 32 Fahrenheit. It depends on which way the temperature is going. If the temperature is going down, the water turns into ice. If the temperature is going up, the ice turns into water. And at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius, every time a molecule of ice jumps into the liquid phase as water, a molecule of water settles into the solid phase as ice. It's very, very interesting that way. This is called a dynamic equilibrium, a one-to-one jumping. Okay. Now, why do I mention this? Because agile change management is going to be about not fully refreezing, but being in this semi-frozen state. It's like when people say, hey, I just want to, Avi, just tell me the best practices. No. When you say best practices, you're insinuating that we're done. And we all know here in Agile land, we're never done. There's always something new and innovative to learn and put into practice and make better. It's about continuous improvement, that Kaizen mindset. So for us, we need to have a dynamic equilibrium, a semi-frozen state. We say, these are the leading practices we're going to follow, but it's not solid again. We can still keep changing. And that brings me to talking about change management in general. As a phrase, I've always found this phrase kind of funny. You know why? First of all, last time I checked, pretty much all of management is about change anyway. So that's kind of redundant. And second of all, it isn't really change that you have to manage. How many of you have Amazon Prime? Who's got Amazon Prime out there? Who's got? Yeah, we all got it. It's the greatest thing. God bless you, Jeff Bezos. You did it. Now, some of you might be remembering what did Bezos do to get us to switch to Prime? Were there TV ads or were there Super Bowl ads? Were there billboards on highways all around the country or around the world? Were there massive email campaigns and radio ads? No, nothing. All he did was say, hey, would you like free shipping? Send me 90 bucks. And everybody did. See, the truth is, when everybody wants to change, there's nothing to manage. It's the resistance that has to be managed. And that's where agile change management is different. Our goal is to find the resistance, focus in on it, and smooth it all out. That's the deal. I know you all know that, but let's codify it. Let's make sure everybody knows that we're not in the business of change management. We're in the business of resistance management. Now, why do our change management efforts fail? I want to go back to the wisdom of the crowd. I don't know everything in the world. Odds are you all do. So let's get out there. Get into the comment, open up the chat. Let's get in there. Why do you think change management initiatives fail? No leadership buy-in. Oh, that was from Charlene. Rose says, people don't like change. Rose, you are on the money, my friend, on the money. No clear purpose, lack of culture. I don't know why. They don't know the why. Now is new is scary. All of this is. And the other reason is because most organizations try to make their changes the same way you see here. They try to make the changes like you're changing the tires on the car without pulling over. Now, I know we're all smiling looking at this video like, oh, yeah, that's fine. But really think about it. That's what they're trying to do. Everybody here knows this is dangerous. You could literally hit a wall. You can't steer well like this. You will smash and everybody dies. It's crazy. But that's how they try to do that change management. We don't have time to slow down. It's the most dangerous attitude and thing to take, especially as you all know, in an agile transformation. You can't just send people to a 2-day class, Scrum at Scale or not, and then put them in charge of an agile transformation and expect it to go. That's like getting a driver's license. Your 17-year-old kid got a driver's license saying, hey, you know what? You should try NASCAR. That's fun. That's a great way to die. You'll be a smoking hole on some circuit somewhere. Don't do that. Don't do that. A lot of people wrote great stuff. Everyone wants their change. From Mark. Renee said, it's been working for years. Why change? Absolutely. Everything you've gotten here, no immediate results, all great reasons. That's why these things fail. Now, I want you to know something funny. When I started doing research for this presentation, I found a statistic, and you'll find it everywhere, including McKinsey put this out. 70% of change initiatives fail. But you know what else I found out? It's not true. There's no evidence for it. Two people in 1933 did some back of the napkin math and came up with this number. And now it's all over the internet, everywhere, being quoted by the biggest consultancies. You got to hire us because 70% of this fails. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter because the only change initiative that has to succeed is yours. So forget about those. Think about yours. Now, I want to go back to something someone put in the chat here, which is really important. Rose Asutaku said very quick, very completely, people don't like change. Yes, Rose, you're right. I say it in every class I give. It's a fact. People don't hate change. But the only way we can win, Rose, is if we understand why we hate change. And it's weird. It's because we're designed to. Let's get back into science, everybody. I'm giving you a flashback. You're going back to high school biology class. Who remembers this word? Homeostasis. Remember that word? Renee's laughing. Yes, Renee remembers that word. I hated that. I hated that class. Renee, it's okay. You're a computer guy. You don't have to know biology. So we forgive you. We love you still, baby. All right. Homeostasis is all about this notion of maintaining a constant internal environment. And this is done by your brain, by your pituitary gland and your hypothalamus. Your hypothalamus actually like measures your blood. It measures all things in your blood, like concentrations of oxygen and different hormones like that. And then it modifies what's going on. So if you're breathing too fast, it helps to slow you down. If your heart rate's too quick, if you need your heart rate to accelerate, it secretes adrenaline. It tells your kidneys, make adrenaline, go, there's a bear. It's all done this way. We're trying to constantly achieve a constant state. And this is what does the mechanism. It turns out your neural habits also work like this. It's very weird. Science has shown that neural paths that are commonly used requires less energy to fire again. You ever notice how you have the same thoughts or the same dream? Yeah, because once you have a thought or a dream, to have that thought or that dream again takes less energy. Now, why do I bring all that stuff? What's this got to do with change management? It turns out that molecules do what's easiest for them. And guess what? People do too. This has been the greatest piece of wisdom any science teacher ever gave me. And it was my college organic chem professor who taught me this. I don't want to tell the whole crazy story, but the bottom line is, if you always think about when people act weird, why are you doing that? It's because even acting that weird, what's weird to you may actually be the easiest for them. Oh, look, Renee says he's a learned chemist and physicist. Look at that, you see? So you get it. You understand all this craziness, right? It's the same thing. It doesn't matter where you go. The physics reflects in the chemistry and in the biology, and the biology reflects in organizational psychology. People just keep doing what's easiest for them. That's why they hate change, because change is hard and it requires more energy. It requires more energy to do something new than keep on doing the same shtick. Now, here are some common misconceptions of change management, okay? And my main thing here is that the oversimplification of the impacts of single variables will lead to failure. And there's lots of them here. It's only about installing new practices, just something that will say, I just got to say this once and then they're going to do it. This is the worst one. We won't need more than the initial budget. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. It's only about buy-in or this area or changing the culture or be a one-time event. People are worried about layoffs and that it won't work unless I'm involved. It's just a fad or an unclear bunch of vague benefits and timelines. And then there's the people that, well, let's just do what they did. These are all bad misconceptions, all of them. Now, I want to talk about how Scrum Scale can help you in your change management. I'm going to mention other ones too, I promise, but I got to plug the one that I work with the best, because I think if you learn it, you'll learn how to use it. And I'm not saying you got to become a Scrum Scale practitioner, although it will help you. I'm saying you have to understand the principles behind which this works. So this is a general transformation roadmap. We start by creating a shared understanding, which is all about products, customers, and ecosystems, and what does it mean to be successful in that way. The second thing we want to do is choose our starting point, and we like to do that with a volunteer army. We firmly believe that volunteerism is better than voluntoldism, because when people volunteer, they put their best foot forward. Why do you want the people who don't want to do this? Remember, it's resistance management. When you start, the less resistors you have, the better it'll go. You can then add the resistors later, because then you'll have the evidence, those case studies, those experiences that Jeff was talking about at the beginning, that Scrum Masters of the Universe relays to everybody. You have all this knowledge. They say, see, it worked. Join us. Become, get the resistance and his feudal thing out. Beat a Borg. You know what I'm saying? Next, establish what we call an executive action team. This type of an action team's job is impediment removal, real impediment removal, not just talking about it, zapping it out. Then opening the meta scrum. This is what we call like an agile steering committee, although I don't use that term. I use steering body, because we all know that committees only make decisions by consensus. And consensus, my friends, is the enemy of progress. And that's what the product owner role was designed to eliminate. And the meta scrum, which is the magnification, the scaled product owner role, the product owner at scale, their whole job is to not worry about consensus, but make actual decisions. So we make our priorities visible. Next, these three things go together. Initiate your cultural changes, form your teams around a backlog, and this will launch now your reference model. That's what this is. The reference model this is your primer on Scrum at Scale. The reference model is the group of associated teams that have to deliver some type of shared body of work together, plus the action team that gets rid of impediments they can't, and the meta scrum, which makes the overall decisions, the overarching priorities, okay? Those three parts, the teams and the two executive groups. Okay, once you've got this, deliver value every sprint. Now this, my friends, is where a lot of organizations make a mistake. They call us up, Avi, can you come in and launch 50 teams? Yes, but that's not a good idea. Why don't we launch 3 to 9 teams with some support, see how it goes, figure out what we need to fix from a cultural and structural perspective, and then make it bigger. How about that? No, yeah, but can we do 50 teams on Tuesday? Okay, I'll see you on Tuesday. That's how a lot of this works, right? Because they don't want to pull the car over. They want to stay under two wheels. But the right way to do this is the small group. Now, why do I say this step is crucial? This is your metric. This is your metric, everybody. If you cannot deliver value every sprint, which means you are not in line with the second value of the Agile Manifesto, then you have no business scaling. But that's what everybody does. They just start scaling like crazy. And so all they do is scale dysfunction. The idea of the reference model is to find the dysfunction and crush it. Get to the point of delivering value every sprint. And then, okay, inspect and adapt all your stuff, product, process, in the organization. And then, as they say in the shampoo business, which of course I have no use for anymore, in case you can't tell, that's it. Rinse and repeat. Start spreading it. That's when you properly scale in a healthy way. Now, here's the deal. In essence, Scrum at Scale is its own essential change management framework, but your organization may use a different one. Hey, that's okay. There are tons of change management frameworks. Many of them work. I'm not going to say this one works and this one doesn't, whatever. What I will say is this. There's one I like the best. I will say that. But here's what I will say. It doesn't matter which one you use. What matters is that you codify it and get it into whatever your company's playbook at scale is. And here's why. We just said before, people hate change. Guess what else people hate? Change management. And if you do change management a certain way here in your organization and do it a different way there, it's very, very confusing. As we all know, people change areas inside the organization or inside their whole company quite often during their careers. If you don't do change management the same way, you create a lot of variation and a lot of unexpected, stress around, I don't know how this is going to work. If you use a consistent change management framework, it actually makes people feel more at ease with the change itself. So pick one and stick with it. Now, if I have to guide you on which one to pick, I will tell you my favorite one. And no, it's got nothing to do with Scrum Inc. or Scrum. It's Kotter. Does everybody know John Kotter? He wrote this book called Accelerate. Now, why do I like his change management model the best? It's because he's the only one that starts with a sense of urgency. Everybody else talks about awareness. Listen, I like awareness too. Awareness is nice. But awareness never made nobody change anything. That's just the truth. It's not awareness. It's urgency. Look, my father, I'll tell you something personal. I hope everybody doesn't mind. My father recently passed away. He passed away a couple months ago in July. He was a diabetic. When I went to go clean out his house, he was still alive. I was moving him. I go to clean out his house. I open up the cabinet, right? And I see a big, giant jar of brownie bites. My dad's a diabetic. He was a diabetic. I said, Dad, what are you doing? Why do you have this? It's like he gets it at, thank you, Mark, I appreciate it. He gets it at Costco. He used to get it at Costco. Everybody know Costco? You buy these big, giant things, right? I said, Dad, what are you doing? I said, you act like somebody meets you at the door of Costco and puts a gun to your head and said, if you don't buy this giant thing of brownie bites, I'm going to get you. No, nobody does that. You buy it yourselves. Why is it that diabetes is so rampant in the United States and people have trouble controlling it? Is sugar works on diabetics like arsenic instead of strychnine. It kills them over years or decades. If it worked like strychnine and killed them instantly, there'd be no diabetes because they would never touch sugar again. It's the same. I know that's like a little morose statement. I apologize for that. But I want you to really think about that with change management for your organization. Think about it. It's because the change isn't, it's because they won't change, isn't killing them instantly, isn't hurting them instantly, that they don't change, that they persist in the dysfunction. If the change was urgent, they would get right to it. I appreciate everybody's messages in the chat. I thank you so much for that. Now take a look at this. I want to show you how these two link together, okay? It's all about creating a sense of urgency, which we do in Scrum at Scale in our shared understanding of success and our starting point. The starting point is the urgent place we need to change. If you start with that, instead of some place that doesn't need it, you're going to be in a much better place, a much better way to start, okay? Next, build the guiding coalition. This is what Kotter says. Our guiding coalition is our action team and our meta scrum. It is the Scrum Master grouping, getting rid of getting rid of impediments. It is our product owner grouping making decisions. That's the guiding coalition. He calls it a one, in Scrum, I'm going to tell you about in Scrum, we bifurcate the what and the how and the facilitation. Those things are all can I say trifurcated, Jeff? Can we make up a new word? It's trifurcated. It will make up a new word for Scrum Masters of the universe, okay? Next, form a strategic vision, okay? Look, that's them too, because they had a leadership groups, right? So the action team makes a vision for the transformation. The meta Scrum makes the new vision for our products or our portfolio, right? Depends on, how at scale you're going to be, okay? Next, we're going to enlist a volunteer army. Hey, isn't that funny? Carter says the same thing we say. Volunteer. So that's all about our starting point and forming the teams around a backlog, okay? Does everybody see where this is going? They dovetail together exactly. That's why Scrum at Scale tends to work, is because John Carter is a Harvard Business School professor. He wrote a lot of books based on observation of hundreds of companies and what works. This formula works, okay? Look at this. Carter says, enable action by removing barriers. Everybody knows that's the Scrum Master thing. Anu, did you know that there's a deity of Scrum Masters from the wonderful mythology of India? It's Ganesh, because he's the remover of obstacles. That's right. I see you smiling like, yes, I know exactly. Look at this is what Carter is pointing to. That's what the action team does. Plus, also is consistent with initiating cultural changes, because sometimes our barriers are cultural. Like if we have a behavior in the company of not going to a steering committee, not going to a meta Scrum, going around leadership's back, going directly to not even going to a product owner, going directly to a developer and saying, hey, can you do this for me? Remember when you used to work for me in another division? You're my favorite UX person. Can you do this? I really appreciate it. It's cultural. That's a problem. Okay. All right. Next, what do we do next? We're going to generate short-term wins. Okay. That's all around the reference model and delivering the value every sprint. That's our short-term wins, people, right? Because we deliver wins in increments and sprints are very short. Okay. Next, Carter says to sustain the acceleration. Hey, that's what we talk about. We check in on our cultural changes. Are they working? Are they expanding? Are they being successful? And we inspect and adapt the whole shebang. All right. Now we're at the last circle. Now I want to tell you something. It says institute change. I'm going to tell you something personal, okay? Because I happen to work sometimes with the Carter people. They are wonderful people. They are lovely human beings. But this bubble is wrong. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's wrong so you can all laugh. It's supposed to say institutionalized change. I want you to think about this for a second. You've been making changes all the way around this circle, right? You've already been instituting change. It's supposed to say institutionalized change. What was the problem, Jeff? Take a look at the font. It wouldn't fit in the bubble. So since it wouldn't fit in the bubble, they just cut it off here. But I want everybody to know it's not it's institutionalized change, which of course we all know is our version of rinse and repeat and spread everything around. Okay, everybody good? Okay, everyone's good. Great. Now, how can we increase the chance that our change management initiative succeed? You're running this model, you're running Carter, you're running Scrum Scale, you're running the same principles. I don't care if you do the same steps, everybody. I care that you do the same principles. Okay. You got to think about this, right? Where does this culture come from? Right? It comes from us. It's evolutionary. Some of you may know that even though we're the only hominid around, there actually used to be quite a bit of us. Well, where'd all these other hominids go? Where'd they go? Some of you are going to say, oh, we outcompeted them. Kind of. In case you're not familiar, we whacked them all. That's how we say it in Brooklyn. We whacked them out. And I think a lot of us ate them too, but that's another disgusting story for another time. Here's the deal. Did we really outcompete them? I want you to think about this question because it's an interesting phrase. Yalila, we'll get to you, I promise. Keep your hand up. And Kalila, is it about this? Go ahead, throw it out there. Say it. Come off a mute and say something. All right, well, she's
My
fine.
apologies. It was on accident. My apologies.
No problem. All right, so where's all this competition come from, and is it good, and what are we going to do about it? I want you to think about this. This is a bell curve of competition in terms of benefits versus competitiveness. We have all seen this. It is a bell curve. There is a point at which competitiveness becomes a detractor. Now, trust me, my degree is evolutionary biology. That's actually how me and Dr. Sutherland became friends, over talking about this kind of stuff. But here's the deal. You've all seen inside your organizations where competitiveness has gone bad. When the competitiveness is focused internally and you have people on the same, has anybody here not experienced people on the same team competing with each other, or teams in the same org competing with each other? So if you've seen that, you understand that there's a point that this becomes a negative. So the question for us is, how do we keep this trend going up? How do we get into this area where despite our competitiveness, we're still receiving benefits? And the answer is collaboration and shared learning. See, many of you have, management does set teams against each other. You're right, Laura. And that's a sickness. That's a sickness, because they think that's how they get better things out of people. And it's not true. It's not true. Look, all you have to do is look at our ancestry. Okay. Or I'll go even further. I'll let you do this further. How about if you look at our children? Which behaviors do we have to encourage? Competitive ones or collaborative ones? If you have more than one kid, or you have a sibling in your life, you know the answer, right, Jeff? It's called sibling rivalry, not sibling cooperation. That's not even a phrase. It's not even a phrase. Kids naturally compete with one another. And it doesn't mean that we don't have collaborative genes. We do. But in order to get it out, we have to do something different. Why are there no other hominids? Here's the deal. You can watch I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's on Netflix right now. They got this thing called Chimpanzee Empire. You watch that show, you will be like, holy crap, they are people. Okay. Here's the deal. You ever watch those videos? You'll see the mother chimpanzee. She strips off the twig and she grabs the termites, and then she teaches the baby chimp how to do it. But you know what you've never seen anybody? You know you never seen? You've never seen a mother chimpanzee from tribe number 1 teach baby chimpanzee from tribe number 2 how to do that. See, that's the one thing that Homo sapiens has that no other representative, whether in the pan species or the Homo species, have, except us. And that's the ability to teach others who aren't related to us. We send our kids to school and they're educated by people from another tribe all the time. We have that. They don't. That's how we won. That's how we can still win. We need to harness that, okay? We need to harness that. And to do that, we have to think about, how do we encourage these behaviors? Now, some of you are wondering, but can we really change it all? Because so many times my company does a change management thing and nothing changes. I got you. I understand. And by the way, the guys who wrote the first paper that gave rise to Scrum, the new product development game, they said the same thing too. Look, no company finds it easy to mobilize itself for change, especially in a non-crisis situation. And COVID, hey, we all lived it. How many of us saw companies mobilize like crazy during COVID? But now it's over. The crisis is past. There's a little bit of an economic crisis going on. We've all seen it. No one's fooling themselves. We all know what's going on. But it's not the same. And so they're back into their stodgy, staunch, entrenched positions. And that's because attempting to change an organization's culture is a folly. It always fails. People's behavior, the culture. Look, this is John Seddon, noted psychologist. He's literally telling you, what is culture? It's people's behavior. It's a product of the system. And when you change the system, people's behavior change. So now we have some clues here that if we want to change the culture, we have to first change the system. And I'm telling you, if you want to change the system, you first have to change the structure, because the way things are organized implies the system of how the pieces move. That's what this whole thing is about. But I don't want you to be fooled. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you it's linear, because it's not. It's cyclical with a lot of participants in Agile. We need leaders, because they're essentially the keepers of the culture, but that's because they're the only people who can make the structural changes. We need people who are like Scrum Masters at scale, whether you're a safe release train engineer or an SOSM. We need you because you help to organize structures and you help to develop the systems. We need all of our agile coaches because you're working with the system and the teams. And that behavior is what creates the culture, which means our team Scrum Masters are also essential. Everybody on the Scrum Master cycle, as we call it in Scrum at Scale, is essential in change management. So how do we change a corporate culture? Who knows who said this? Be the change you want to see in the world. Go ahead, throw it in the chat. Go ahead. Show how smart you are. Who's fastest? Who's fastest? Who said this? Oh, look at this. Everybody knows it was the Mahatma. Everybody thinks, Karen, you're the winner. You were first in. Everyone thinks it was the Mahatma, and it's true, but he actually, Karen, I'm going to shock you right now. He actually didn't say this. This is the bumper sticker version of what he said. What Mahatma actually said was if we could change ourselves, the tendencies in the world would also change. As a person changes their own nature, so does the attitude of the world change toward them. We need not wait to see what others do. That's my highlighting, not Gandhi's. Why did I highlight that? Look, I'm going to say something personal again. I hope nobody minds. We live in very interesting times, they say in China. We live in a time of tremendous trouble. You do not have to look around to see if other people think what is going on is wrong to know whether or not it's wrong. You already know in your heart. You can make that decision. You don't need to. Is that the wrong thing that they did? Was that bad? You don't have to ask anybody. You know. You know. And you know when someone does something so bad that you have to say something. Whether it's misogyny at work or somebody acting violently in the street. You don't have to wait for somebody else. You know what's right to do. That's just the truth, people. That's just the truth. And Gandhi told us that a long, long time ago. Now, if you consider what Gandhi is saying and you add it into what John Seddon says, it's about changing the structure in the system. But when it comes to changing the culture, that's changing ourselves. And that's tough. That's tough to do. So we can use Scrum to change the system, how the pieces interact. We can use Scrum at scale. You can use SAFe. You can use anything you want to change the structure. But what about changing ourselves, everybody? I'm going to give you some advice from another business guru. I don't have a lot of business gurus. I don't lie. I'm telling you the truth here. I got Dr. Jeff Sutherland. I got Peter Drucker. Everybody knows Drucker. And I got this guy, Dr. Eli Goldratt, who said in his book, The Goal, tell me how you measure me and I will tell you how I behave. If you really think about what Dr. Goldratt is telling us, he's saying it's all about metrics and bonuses. If you don't have your metrics and your bonuses in line with acting in an agile way, why would you expect anybody to do it? When agile change management, where agile change management succeeds and regular change management fails, is here. We understand that if you want people to be agile, you have to reward them for it. The whole way you win is by harnessing human psychology to create an ecosystem where collaborative behaviors are more beneficial to individuals, teams, and customers than competitive ones. Reward the collaboration and you get it naturally. Otherwise, the competitive genes are stronger because I think I have to fight for my promotion and my raise and my product instead of our portfolio, our team, and our success. But if you incentivize the latter, that's what you get. Human beings, you ask the average person, they'll all tell you, oh, I'm terrible at math. I'm terrible. I don't know. I'm terrible at math. Really? When it comes to bonuses, people can do calculus in like 30 seconds. That's just the truth. So what are you going to do? Make it align. Metrics and bonuses. You cannot successfully do anything in an agile way if your metric and bonus system is from the traditional project management world. It doesn't work. It's counterintuitive. Let me give you some last thoughts and we'll open this up for some conversation in our final 10 minutes, okay? I want to talk about pace of this change. Look, even the head of BCG said, this guy who started the biggest consultancy in the world, all the forces of corporate culture are set against change. If you think you're going to change everybody at once, like you're going to pull some switch, it's going to fail. I don't care what case study you read by these people. They're all not telling the truth. They're all lying. Big type change management always fails. Here's better advice from a very famous organizational psychologist, Dr. Gary Brandt. Look, demand perfect effort, not perfect results. Break down long-term change into doable chunks. Everybody on this call, if that doesn't sound like Scrum, I don't know what does. Aren't we looking for MVPs? Aren't we looking for sprint backlogs and increments? Come on now. Treat your change management the same way you treat your product development, and it'll be successful. Let's go back to these last ones before we split, okay, everybody? Try to remember, it's not only about installing new practices, you have to adjust the motivators to support those practices. It's not just about saying something once. You're going to need a communication plan and a team to carry the plan out. That's your action team. It's not just about the initial budget. It's about persistent funding for sustaining change. And it's not about buy-in, everybody. Buy-in is lip service. It's junk. It's about participation. Roll your sleeves up, dig your hands in, get in there, grab a shovel and start digging. It's not just about one area because most change initiatives have ripple effects. You have to think beyond the box where you want to put the change. And it's not just only about the culture, because targeting that will be ineffective. You have to think system and structure. And it isn't just going to be one time. You have to think about the continuum, the ongoing short and long-term needs. And when it comes to layoffs, you know what? Fear is real, and it drives resistance. You have to confront that. The truth is in a lean or an agile or a Scrum transformation, people can have, should have job security. They may not have role security. You may have to do something else. And there's usually, I'm not going to pull any punches, everybody. There's usually about 20% natural attrition, which is kind of okay, because that's the wrong people getting off the bus by themselves. But if there's fear and driving resistance, you have to confront that. Now, for these leaders who are egotistical, it won't work unless I'm involved. Hey, listen, if change is dependent on one person, it's never going to work. And you have to create a succession plan. I want to go back to that comment in the beginning by Andre about start and end. The end is not just tying a bow on the change. It's creating a succession plan, somebody to carry it forward. How many of you have been in a transformation that only failed year or months later because the person who started it left? It did so good, they got promoted. And then it got rolled back. Because in order for a leader to be successful, they have to put their own stamp on something. And if the last woman who ran this division made it agile, well, then I'm going to put my mark on it by taking it away. It can't be a fad. Positive reinforcement is the surest way to lasting change. And it can't be, nothing can be vague or unclear. There's no such thing as over communication in a transformation or any change management effort for that matter. There's no such thing. Last, you cannot just lift and shift. What works someplace else, even inside your own company, will not work in another place. Because even though we say that there's a company culture, there's really microcosms of those cultures in different departments or different units. Okay? So you've got to really be prepared for that. Now, before I take any questions, in case people have to leave, I know we're coming to the end. I just want to say, don't forget, your job is to unfreeze it and then live in that dynamic equilibrium, that semi-frozen state. And if you got to go before the questions, I understand. I look forward to seeing you in the deep end of the pool. It's a little chilly in there, but I know we're all going to be able to do it together, okay? Let's open it up for questions. All right. Let's get that out there. The first question that there was in the chat was from Charlene said, why don't you launch one team and show success while launching more? Charlene, that is what you should do. But if you're working most of the time in a very large company, they don't have any interest in launching a single team. If you can launch one before more, absolutely, Charlene Freeman, that is what you should do. Most of the time, you'll be tasked with something bigger. And so you want to get 3 to 9 dependent teams, not willy-nilly teams, 3 to 9 dependent teams and their supporters, supporting executive groups. Ajit wrote, so practically speaking, how do we ensure that change transformation does not disrupt day-to-day running the business? So this is another really good question, Ajit. And the answer is you should not try to start the change management initiative where if it failed, you throw the whole company off the rails. You should go for a pilot, maybe a brand new product, or maybe a legacy product that you're trying to shift. Because if you take the most crucial initiative that could, make or break an organization, and the people who are doing it don't know what they're doing, which is exactly, Ajit, that's exactly what's going to happen, then they will derail the whole company. So you don't want to do that. You want to start in a better spot. All right, we have some other questions coming in. This is that happens with that. Yeah, Chantelli, that definitely happens in airlines. I know that business. You're welcome to all the people writing thank you in the chat. Are there any other questions I can help answer? This is it. If not, I would say find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. Jeff, I am still on Twitter. Don't look for me on Facebook unless you want to just hear ranting against the government, because that's just kind of like a hobby. So that's what I do over there.
I think Charlene had another question, but what if we don't have authority or influence to make these align?
This is great. Then you have to learn how to build your coalition. You're going to have to learn how to you're going to have to learn how to be a politician yourself. Because if you don't have the power to do it, you have to find the people who do, and you have to convince them. Now, let me explain how you convince them, because we have a few minutes left. I want you to understand something. You're welcome, Sarah. I appreciate the compliment. I want you to understand something, everybody. Leaders only speak one language: money. I know that they say, well, I care about culture, or I care about employee term. I understand that they care about it, but they only care about it because of the bottom line, money. Unless you work in a nonprofit, in which case they care about impact. Okay. So everything you do, you have to translate into money. You have to be able to say, well, we're going to do this because. Now, what translates into money? There's only two things. There's increasing revenue or profit margin, and there's decreasing costs. So everything you do, you want to relate it to somehow this increases profit margins or revenue, or somehow this decreases costs. You want to talk about culture and turnover? Hey, how much does it cost to onboard a new employee? Oh, I don't know, $50,000. How many months does it take until they're actually productive in this company? I don't know, 2 months. Great. So $50,000 for their training and 2 months of their salary. Throw that together. That's your cost savings by working in an agile way and not having turnover. Oh, well, if we get this thing quicker to market, what is that going to do for us? Well, we're going to be able to increase sales by this much. If you translate everything you're doing from the change into either dollars earned or dollars saved, you win. That's how you will get the people who have the power, who have the authority on your side. And then you harness those arguments. Sumya wrote, how to handle attitude change in organizations when they are transforming. I don't know what you mean by attitude change, because I have a bad attitude and I'm keeping it. So
I mean, like change to resistance.
How do how do you change resistance? That's what your question is?
Yes.
So it's a longer discussion, but we have 3 minutes, so we're okay. The first thing you have to do is it Sumya? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay, Sumya. The first thing you have to do is find out what the resistance is from. So I teach this in our registered Agile coaching class. People resist change, not just for the biology is there, but there's actually a lot of different reasons. So for example, some people are afraid of losing a job, which is a real fear. Other people are afraid of losing face. This is an expression, from Asia and stuff, where you will be seen lower in other people's eyes. So I don't want to do this change because I don't know about this. And then everybody thinks I'm an expert, and now they won't think I'm the expert anymore. And so my face will be lowered. Some people resist the change because, well, I've only got 2 years to go. I kind of like my comfy chair and the way I work, and I'll just outlast this until I retire. So you have to figure out what is the cause of the resistance and then attack it directly head on. And what do I mean by that? So you may have heard this expression in English. I don't know if you have. It's called WIFM, WIFM. What's in it for me? Most of the reasons why people don't change is because they don't see anything in it for them. Somebody mentioned that in the beginning of this workshop here about why people resist change. So you have to appeal to what is actually in it for them. And again, go to the dollars and cents thing. Go to the respects thing. You have to understand what their personal currency is. You figure out why they're resisting, what their personal currency is, and then you can say, how, if we changed, you're going to get more of that personal currency, and then the resistance begins to fall away naturally. Because if I want the change, there is no resistance. Best resources, Karen asks, as we go into our last moment, okay? Best resources for our session. Jeff's going to send out the deck. And Karen, this sounds like a great question for you to email me or find me on LinkedIn and let's talk about it, okay? Let's do it.
And with that, we are at the top of the hour. So, Avi, thank you very much. And like expected, you did not disappoint.
Thank you, Jeff. Hope everybody had a great time and learned something. And I look forward to seeing you all out somewhere in Agile land and Scrum world. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thanks for joining, Avi. And thank you, Avi. Really appreciate you joining. Great session today.